Welcome back to the Let's Pivot podcast. Today we're joined with Kate Visconti. She is the founder and CEO of Five to Flow. Talking to her today a little bit about her entrepreneurship journey and how things are going for her. Good morning, Kate. How are you doing today?
Good morning and good afternoon. It's nice to see you today. I'm well. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. Okay, so Kate, let's just get into it. What made you decide to start your own business and, become an entrepreneur?
Mm, That's such the great question every entrepreneur likes to hear, and I wonder what percentage actually remember that critical decisioning moment versus I don't remember changing my major in university. I don't remember a lot of impetus to decisions, but this one is pretty easy. It's after several years as a high school teacher and then 14 years in financial services, moving all over and learning pretty much how to run a business in a business, and then 12 plus years global consulting for every industry. After those 12 years of consulting and thinking about the previous pieces of my career, my own experiences with flow state and burnout. So, when I tell you a little bit about the company, that'll make more sense. When I kept noticing a lot of organizations missing some critical components to how they coach and deliver and manage change, I decided I didn't want to be part of a statement of work that could be deleted at the last minute when the client decided to move forward with a consulting firm. And that if my company was founded on that and we got to work with people who really believe in organizational change, flow state, mental health, and physical health of employees, and putting us as the employees at the forefront of a project, that if I could just be that delivery source and you've bought into that such that you're working with my company, that would fulfill a greater purpose in my life and a lot of my friends and colleagues' lives. And so, what better way to do that than to just start my own company and stop being subjected to decisions of my peer group in the sales team, on the budget team, and the procurement of the client, that I feel like I wanted to be chosen.
Right, right. So tell us a little bit about starting that journey. What was it like getting your first couple of clients? Where did they come from? How
Mm.
did you approach that?
Well, most people love that the story, and you can check the date in your brain. My co-founder and I, Jason, decided to start the company in March of 2020 at the very beginning of the month. And I wanted to do on site retreats to get executives to come together and experience flow state. And if everybody that's one of your listeners knows what happened in mid March of 2020, there were going to be no on site retreats. And so the founding of the company has that funny, very early beginning of pivoting before we even publicly launched. So the beginning stages were very much founded in purposeful education. So I took an entrepreneurship class that I audited during COVID remote. I took the Stephen Kotler and Rian Doris Flow Research Collective course, a mindfulness and meditation course, all things that you would want to do to equip what we might call grit and resilience and growth mindset. So, in those early days, I was literally a reference for an employee that used to work for me at the previous company, and where she went became our first client. Communications. I think they're now called 2 Degrees. They got bought right in the middle of a sales cycle. So I could segue right into our first client. Also became our first big loss because we were basically at the signature table with Focus New Zealand when an Australian company bought them days before the signature. So, fast lesson: don't count your eggs, don't count your chickens before they're hatched, right? So yeah,
Right.
that's the beginning funny story of immediate lessons learned of your solution has to fit with what's going on in the economy and in the world, and it has to serve a need that you'll actually be able to deliver on, and that first clients might not always come to fruition based on the economy as well.
Right, right. And I'm sure fit and other things, right? There's a lot of moving parts typically on big things like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean, you're 5 years now, over 5 years in business. They
Yep.
say the first 5 years are the the trickiest, the hardest. I feel like you How much do you feel like you've learned in the last 5 years?
I
Like
think
growth.
every, yeah, I would say that probably the top two things would be everything takes 2 to 5 times longer than you anticipate. And truly, as some of my best friends put it, we won't relax until the plane's actually taken off from the runway. So it's an interesting one, using the analogy of you get to the airport on time, you get through security on time, you get to your seat. Is it time to relax yet? Or do you wait until you've actually taken off or until you actually landed at the destination? And so I think the journey is an interesting one with all those little checkpoints, right? Like getting our first customer, getting our second customer, getting our first invoice paid, and making your first hire. So many things to learn by mistake and really internalize, and so many things to say, I'm not equipped to even make this mistake. Let me find somebody who can coach me through it. So I think with that mindset of you don't know what you don't know, and so being really connected to other founders, other successful business leaders, coaches, education sources, I think like yeah, those would be my top two.
Okay. And do you use a mentor? Is that what you mean when you're talking about asking other people? Is that something that you recommend people?
Yeah, first and foremost, I signed up for what's called the Founders Lab in Australia. So I was living in New Zealand when I started Five to Flow and wanted somebody in my time zone to connect with. So outside of the entrepreneurship class that I took, that was really about business planning and understanding all the aspects of business, I joined this group led by some former colleagues of mine who are all now founders, and we would meet weekly to talk about things. We didn't promote our businesses. It was a space to like really talk about the concept of running a business and being an entrepreneur. That network quickly grew into another one I started myself with female founders only, just to have like a different context, because the Founders Lab in Australia, it
Mhm.
was me and all men. And I was totally comfortable with that. I've been in male dominated industries my whole career. I have 4 brothers. I wasn't uncomfortable, but I started thinking, I wonder if there are other female founders who would be less comfortable in that scenario and would need some support. So I think creating and leveraging resources out there. There's other professional organizations like Chi for Vistage that really help leaders and founders succeed. So tapping into those resources and not feeling like we have to reinvent the wheel. And the second one, you asked about a coach. I have always had a coach. My current coach I've had for the last 5 years. Her name's Jennifer Franco, and I will always give her a shout out because she is inspiring and life changing and gave my team a set of tools that's really helped us succeed in how we communicate, how we interact with each other, and taking kind of the human conflict elements as off the table as possible while we have all the other things to think about, like sales and marketing and operations. The last thing I want is to not feel like I have a cohesive team that can really access group flow together. So my coach has been instrumental in that.
Sounds like you have a lot of the big things worked out. I mean, that's the benefit to having been there for 5 years, right? It gives you,
Yeah.
I think that's why they say that's the magic number. You kind of work out the kinks, figure out what works and what doesn't, how to put a team together, how to, motivate, lead, incentivize.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
exactly.
congratulations. Pretty
Thank
amazing.
you.
So, all of that being said, where are you going? What are your plans for growth? How big do you plan to get? What do you plan to do?
Yeah, we have big goals that we've had from the beginning. It's been no secret to anyone we've worked with, clients, colleagues, partners, that we do have a long-term exit strategy where we want to all fulfill our own purpose working for a company that's making a difference. So we are a purpose-based firm. We believe in employee health and wellness and a positive customer experience, that can both, those things can both happen as the priority to drive financial results for either shareholders, stakeholders, investors, and the like. And so ultimately, we would either like to acquire another firm. We kind of broke it into 3 categories of just keep doing what we love and keep growing. And that growth really more measured in the personal and professional development of my team and in the impact we have in the world, how many lives we change, how many people we impact, how many organizations we help achieve peak performance and prevent burnout. But also, like, option two, should we acquire another company and expand? But option three, that the investors would be most interested in, is how to find a like minded, purpose based larger organization that could leverage our tools and resources to expand what they do. So the whole team is poised to make decisions now that are in the best interest of the long term, that we're fulfilling our mission and vision, and staying aligned to our core values. So 2025 was a huge productization year where we built some scalable tools to enable the delivery teams to do things faster and easier. You referenced AI early on when we chatted prior to the podcast starting. That how do we make sure organizations are implementing AI in a way that promotes flow and prevents burnout, and that it isn't a tool for tool's sake? That's part of my founding story, is in implementing CRM for companies. Sometimes it felt very much like a tool for the tool's sake and shiny new object, but like, what's really going to add value to your day in the life. So we're using, let's just give a shout out to Riverside Podcast Studio. Is it making it easy for you to do your job, or is it just another shiny new object tool that you could have used something simpler? So we use Riverside, so I'll give a second shout out that if it can make your job easier, help you get into flow, reach that state of peak performance and immersion in what you're doing, and feel like you're adding value to the world when this podcast is released, then it's done the right thing. So that's where we are as a unit this year. Most of the tools are built, and we are really in the scale year of leverage what we've built to truly hit more impact in our communities, whether that's a B2C model to get more people to take our courses, access our coaching, and more organizations to buy into no more culture surveys. They're not doing anything for the organization. What you really need are diagnostics that help you fix the root causes of the challenges within your organization.
So that sounds to me a lot like thinking about the systems that the people use, right? Reducing friction, reducing kind of bottlenecks.
Absolutely.
So let me ask you, do you see any friction points or bottlenecks currently? Like if there was one major thing that if you had a magic wand, you would wave it and fix or
Yeah.
change, what would it look like?
I mean, it's an interesting question because experientially, over the course of the last decade, tools and resources that were implemented took several months. There were competing tools and resources. Business processes would need to be rewritten. Now, with a lot of the AI tools, some of the stuff even we've implemented, we look back a month or two, a year or two, and everything feels outdated. And as people use technology more and more outside of work, they have much higher and higher expectations of how things work for them inside of work. But there's like bigger challenges to be had, like data strategies, etc. So I think from my own perspective, internally at Five to Flow, to reduce friction, we're really struggling with what are the best tools and how to streamline them and not feel like there's redundancies. But from a client perspective, the biggest friction has always been data. And so you can implement all these tools and resources, get the best magic wand AI tool into your organization. But if you haven't spent time on the data with AI, it's going to also still be garbage in, garbage out. So CRM was that way, ERP systems are that way, that we buy and implement these amazing tools and then just load them with our shit data and then don't put the onus on end users to have data stewardship. So yeah, I think waving the magic wand of everybody having accurate, clean, timely,
Wait,
complete
hold
data.
on, Kate. What is the answer then? We can't just put crap
Uh,
in and expect to get diamonds out.
yeah,
So that's the problem, right? I mean, I feel like if I'm hearing you, the problem is it's not the tools, right? It's that we're not leveraging them properly. We're not getting the right data into the tools to get the most out
yep.
of them. Is that
Yeah, I
how do
think
we
there's an interesting like 360 view. Like so many companies say, like get a 360-degree view of your customer. Well, a 360-degree view requires your company to manage it from a 360 degree. So, what does IT and the data governance team own versus what does a team leader own versus what does an individual own. So if you think of any individual consumer using Chat GPT and giving it a very bad prompt versus a really good prompt, or the designer of the LLM or what have you and how it was coded, is the data coming out accurate? So we play with AI tools quite a bit, and I'll catch mistakes all the time, and I'll have a little chat with it like, did you make that up? And it'll say yes. I'm like, none of those metrics are accurate. Why did you make that up? And so we'll have a little conversation just like you would with an employee. So the answer, which has been elusive to everyone, is if we all go, well, you own the data. No, you own the data, when it's we own the data. And every single person that's inputting data into systems, everyone who's extracting stuff out and then has a desktop version and is reporting from that and it's no longer accurate. There's so many variables for data. So that's why it's going to require a magic wand. And I have yet 15 years to have a client who figured out the data nut, right? If you crack that nut, Chuck, if you get like, just crack that data nut, the MDM strategy, the governance from the IT central perspective, the connection and the integrations, whether they're real time, what are required fields in your CRM tools or what have you, and individuals who use these systems not fat fingering stuff or putting in inaccurate data. Like, how do we crack that nut? Will AI get to a point of knowing our inputs are shitty and fix them for us, or where will that go? I'll tell you a quick story and then you can jump to your question. The interesting implication of garbage in, garbage out, and data and accuracy in an AI world is my mom, who is 74, recently made a deep fake video of me dancing. Okay. If people in their 70s are figuring out how to make deep fakes, and now data isn't only not good, it's actually false. So, like, how much false data is being created by people using AI, and then when we validate something AI says, like, so we use Claude and Chat GPT and Gemini, and so there's no one tool that I'm pro or anti, right? But like, in a world where I'm getting fed information and I don't correct it, and then does that go back into the model and then think it's right and it feels validated, and so yeah, we're just going to go off of that. So I just think it's an interesting self-perpetuating problem that's why we need a magic wand for it.
Okay. And I feel like we need to see that deep fake video.
Oh my gosh, we'll definitely have to share it. It's pretty hilarious. It's like, how does a 73-year-old woman make a deep fake?
Right, right. Well, probably has plenty of time on her hands, right?
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you for talking with us today, Kate. I really appreciate you taking the time to be on the podcast and give your thoughts and your story. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having us. I am excited about your journey with. So you said you're an AI company. What will you do with this information and this research? Like, as you're analyzing the context from these podcasts, what's your big next step?
So, one, to figure out exactly what the biggest issue is, right? 100 podcasts, like what are the recurring two or three things that I hear? And then how do I find a solution for that? Is there anything that can be done, right? So, if we get to the end and we say, oh, man, the biggest thing for everybody is you have all these tools, but getting the right data into it to get the best out of the tools, right? Then the question becomes, okay, well, how do we do that in a way that makes sense? And so, a little bit of research and just
Yeah.
trying to find out where the exact gaps are.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Well, thank you so much for having me on. I wish you the best with your journey. I'd be curious to hear the outcomes. I hope we'll all get a report, and look forward to hearing if anybody else waves the magic wand on data. Thank you so
for
much.
sure. Thank you. Yep. Have a great day.